Can you please be quiet and let the professionals speak? The sharp tone sliced through the morning air like a nail gun, freezing everyone in the makeshift meeting room at the construction site. Heads turned, silence fell. All eyes landed on one man, Andre Jefferson, hard hat tucked under one arm, weathered hands resting calmly on his folded blueprint. "We don't pay bricklayers to think," continued Richard Harrington, the new chief engineer of Horizon Constructions, "just to follow instructions." A few engineers snickered behind their clipboards. Others shifted uncomfortably. Andre's jaw tightened. At 42, with 2 decades of field experience, he'd faced his share of backhanded remarks. But this was something else. His only crime had been to speak up, to point out a subtle but dangerous design flaw in the Northeast Foundation, a flaw that could doom the integrity of the entire 30-story project. "With all due respect, sir," Andre said evenly, "the slope of this land exerts uneven lateral pressure on the northeast columns. The load calculations don't account for—" Richard laughed, loud, exaggerated, performative. "Hear that, everyone? The bricklayer's been studying calculus. Maybe we should all pack up and let him draw the blueprints." Nervous laughter rippled through the room like a guilty breeze. Andre said nothing. His expression didn't flinch. He'd seen this kind of arrogance before. He had learned long ago that there were 2 ways to win a battle: by force or by letting the enemy defeat himself. "Understood, sir," he said simply. "I just thought I should mention it." Richard grinned smugly. "Now that we've clarified the chain of command, let's proceed. We have deadlines." But as the meeting continued, no one noticed Andre quietly typing a message into his phone. No one noticed the calm in his eyes, not the calm of surrender, but of precision, of something about to shift. 30 minutes later, a buzz ran through the site like an electric current. "Emergency meeting in 15. Mr. Jefferson is coming, the owner." Murmurs swept the grounds. The elusive Thomas Jefferson, founder of Horizon Constructions, was known for keeping a low profile. His visits were rare, his evaluations unforgiving. Richard's face paled slightly as he straightened his blazer. "Get everything spotless. I want no mistakes." Meanwhile, unnoticed, Andre walked to a modest gray sedan parked near the equipment shed. He opened the trunk and changed. Work shirt off, clean-pressed button-down on. He wiped the cement dust from his forearms, adjusted a slim leather watch, and retrieved a sleek briefcase and rimmed glasses. Then he locked the car and walked, slowly, deliberately, to the administrative trailer. When the black Mercedes pulled into the site minutes later, Richard was already waiting, clipboard in hand and ego on full display. The rear door opened, a security guard stepped out. Then a tall, middle-aged black man emerged in an impeccable navy suit. His eyes swept the crowd with calm command. Richard stepped forward, hand outstretched. "Mr. Jefferson, welcome! We're honored! Everything is on schedule." The man looked at the hand, but didn't take it. Instead, he spoke with surgical clarity. "Thomas Andre Jefferson, founder and owner of Horizon Constructions." The silence was instant. Eyes widened, mouths hung open. Richard blinked as though someone had just unplugged his brain. But you're—" "Yes," Thomas said, stepping closer. "Also the bricklayer you humiliated this morning." Gasps echoed through the workers. Richard stood frozen, visibly withering beneath the weight of his mistake. But Thomas wasn't finished. 15 years ago, I started this company to build more than structures. I go undercover on major projects to see the truth, to witness who respects the foundation, not just of buildings, but of people. Walter Green, the veteran site supervisor, stepped forward, arms crossed and lips curled in a rare smile. "He's been doing it since day one." Richard staggered back a step. "I had no idea. If I had known—" "That's exactly the problem. Respect should never depend on titles." The administrative trailer became a courtroom. "Let's get to the point," Thomas said, projecting blueprints onto his screen. "Why were my warnings ignored and mocked?" Richard stammered. "Mr. Jefferson, I was reinforcing protocol, maintaining order." Thomas tapped his tablet. Audio filled the room. Richard's earlier voice blared. "Here we work with calculations, not the gut feelings of a bricklayer." Richard looked like he might implode. Walter stepped forward with 2 auditors. "We've reviewed 3 months of decisions, 17 safety violations, unauthorized material swaps, falsified soil reports." "All to save money?" Thomas asked. A junior engineer stepped forward, voice shaking. "He told us if we cut $1 million from the budget, we'd all get performance bonuses." "This is a conspiracy," Richard shouted. "I'm a Stanford-educated professional. You can't destroy me based on the opinion of a black man," Thomas cut in. Silence, like a vacuum. Richard collapsed into his chair. Thomas placed a folder in front of him. 2 options. 1, termination for cause, license revoked, legal proceedings. 2, voluntary resignation, return the bonus, and work 6 months in our community training program. 5 minutes. Choose. Outside, workers gathered. Rumors flew. Then Richard appeared carrying a box of belongings. He looked out of place without his usual arrogance. Pity followed him like a shadow. Walter stepped up on a platform. "My name is Thomas Andre Jefferson. Many of you knew me as Andre. Today, I want to make something clear. At Horizon, respect is not based on degrees or paychecks. It's based on integrity." Within weeks, Horizon changed. Anonymous feedback lines opened. Every employee received leadership and safety training. The company culture evolved, like fresh concrete drying stronger by the day. Richard, for his part, was quiet. He attended every training session. He never spoke unless spoken to, but he listened. He watched. One day he showed up early to the youth training center in Horizon's downtown campus. He didn't correct the guards when they assumed he was a new instructor. He watched students from broken schools calculate angles, ratios, tolerances. They struggled, then solved, and smiled. By the 3rd week, Richard was teaching full-time, not by command, but by choice. "They see things differently," he told Walter once. "They ask questions I'd never consider." Walter chuckled. "You mean they think like bricklayers?" Richard didn't laugh, but he nodded. 6 months passed. The tower rose into the skyline, 30 floors of glass, steel, and second chances. Horizon's foundation wasn't just concrete anymore. It was humility. In a boardroom on the top floor, Thomas reviewed reports from Walter. 78% improvement in safety, 94% retention from underprivileged hires, and Richard, still here, still teaching, actually extended his stay. Later in the parking lot, Thomas approached Richard loading boxes into a compact hatchback. "Expecting a return to the old world?" "Had offers, but I asked to stay another semester. I don't want to abandon my students." Thomas nodded. "Approved." They stood in silence. "You taught me something I didn't learn at Stanford, the difference between power and respect." Thomas offered a rare smile. "Now go teach them the same." A year later, Horizon's headquarters displayed a gleaming golden plaque. "We build structures with materials, but we build respect with humility." The story of a bricklayer once humiliated, who rose to become a CEO, had become a legendary example of leadership across multiple industries. At the training center, Richard continued to teach. From time to time, he would glance out the window at the towering structure he had nearly toppled with his pride, and then helped rebuild through his personal transformation. Because in the end, the strongest foundation doesn't lie beneath the earth, it lies within the soul.